chosen, especially if you've got a reserve of names and you're choosing one that did not even apply for the DAC.
So you didn't read the applicants yourself?
I'm not gonna answer that question because that's not what we're talking about.
Well, if you're not gonna answer the question, I'm not gonna feel the hold to
Oh my
answer yours.
goodness.
So, is there any further discussion, or can we proceed to the motion? Chris's objections notwithstanding.
Dave, I have a question, I need to ask it again.
Okay.
With the names that are currently on the list, I don't have a problem with. Some of them I know, some of them I don't. I want to make sure that we are following our own policy that we wrote last week and approved. Is every step of that policy being followed? It has nothing to do with names on the list. It has everything to do with the process and the policy that we just approved. Are we in conformity with that policy in the vote that we're making this evening?
Well, David, ultimately, that decision lies in your judgment. I think that I am following the policy that we adopted as well as the process that we discussed. That's ultimately going to be up to each director to determine.
Your policy said that the principals would submit recommendations and the board would consider those recommendations and appoint the committees.
That is my concern. And that was my question to you, Tina. Have all of the principals looked over these names and been able to make a recommendation to the board before the board vets and chooses them? And again, I don't have any objections to the names. I want to be very cautious about the process. And I don't think we're taking a vote on the process tonight. We're taking a vote on the names of the people to appoint them to the SAC and the DAC. Have we followed the process?
Well, I think we have a lot of, the principals have made the recommendations. The list that's been provided has, by Ms. Cassens, has their recommendations as well as the other names. I think that, we can have a vote and we can decide whether that vote carries or not and go from there.
I think, David, also you were asking, I was interpreting that you might be asking if I was to take this list back to the principals, would they make different recommendations? I would speculate that they would remain with their current recommendations because they picked those and trained those. So we'll be retraining for 13 positions. I don't think principals would change their recommendations if they saw the remainder of the list. So your policy says you will look at principal recommendations and then the board will appoint the committees.
Okay, but my question to you, Tina, is I want an assurance that all of the principals have seen all of the current names that are on the list that have been applied for these positions. Because that's what the policy says, that all of the names shall go to the principals, that they will, from those names, submit their recommendations to the board of directors with the names that were not selected. From that list, from those lists, recommended people and the applicants, from those two lists, the board will make their determination on who serves on the SAC and the DAC. And again, I do not have an objection to any name that's on this list. I want the assurance that that has happened, that the principals have seen every name and to be able to have given us a recommendation.
So I would say that they have seen most of the names. I told you earlier that I sent out the names of the new applicants, but some of them are under different schools. So they did not see names under different schools. They did not see some of the names for DAC representatives didn't apply, what Chris was saying, they didn't apply for the DAC. So principals haven't seen their name on the DAC, but that's the DAC is a different policy because the DAC is appointed by the board. It's the board subgroup, so that one is closer that the DAC selects those, because you rewrote policy last week that the DAC doesn't have to be SAC members. That was a change you made to policy. So no, they've seen most of the list, but I would say no, I can't assure you they've seen every name that's on here because some were not listed under those schools.
So David, what you're initially saying is, we're assuming that the principals have seen the same information that we have, but, they predetermined who they were gonna sit on the SAC committees and are still, recommending the same names that they had on their committees prior to, the names that were submitted up until the 10th. Is that correct?
I think I followed you, Sue, and yeah, I'm not sure exactly what I followed what you were saying.
The applications that were collected after the initial recommendations or appointments, because it was prior to us changing the policies.
Got it.
They
I'm with you.
still have those, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was only one hole in the high school, SAC committee. They chose to stay with the original applicants or prior to applications because they all acquired their SAC members, individual as they saw fit as principals. They did not take or appoint any new applicants that we opened up to the public. That's what I'm saying.
Well, they weren't really asked to. So they weren't asked to redo this. I was speculating that if I gave them this list, my guess is that they would remain the same because they personally invited all of those people. So they feel, so one thing that happens after we vote is I have to uninvite some people. So I need to contact some people and say, thank you, and you're not on this committee. So professionally, the principals probably would not change because they personally and professionally invited those people to join the committee and they trained them. So that's why I'm saying the principals would probably not change. So,
But did we
Well,
not change?
whether they probably would or not, to me, doesn't make any difference. Have they seen the names? Have we followed?
No,
our
David, the
policy?
answer is
If
no, they've not seen all the
principal has not
names.
received every name on their list that qualifies to be on their list, then I don't see how if that has not happened, and it may have happened, but it sounds like there's a question whether it has happened or not. And whether I believe the principal would change their mind or not doesn't make any difference to me, because they need to have an opportunity to change their minds or to reselect. And if we don't have the proper list to give them for them to make their decision, and they don't send us a list of their recommendations from the full new list, then I don't see how we can proceed according to our policy.
David, the policy simply says that we will consider the principal's recommendations. We have received their recommendations. That's all the policy requires. It doesn't require this
But
sort of
David, have we
detail
received
specific.
it from the full, have they seen the full list to make a recommendation?
I don't think apparently they've not seen every possible person who has submitted.
Is that not according to our policy?
No,
Have they
it's-
seen every possible
It's
person?
it's not written
It's not in
in the
policy.
policy.
So the policy, can I?
Yes, please
Go
read
ahead.
it? Let me read what I read, okay. So
Yeah.
last week, when we did, the AE, the regulation, the part that was changed, it says all applicants shall be forwarded to the Board of Education along with the recommendations by the principal of each school for appointment by the Board of Education.
There you go. So I understand, the point you're making and how you would prefer it to be done. But, this is the hour, this is the day, and the policy has been complied with. And quite frankly, the recommendations have been taken well under advisement, and many of the recommendations are on the list that I'm proposing we vote on. So do you have, further discussion, David, before,
I do.
go ahead, yeah, I'm sorry, go
No,
ahead.
you're fine. I have David, when we were
Yeah.
discussing these policies, we talked about it and, during the week, I had a parent call me and say, previously, these were all being ran by the principals. Like, these are supposed to be parent-led, parent-driven accountability, committees. And I think that's why, I've talked to a lot of community members, there has to be a mix. And so, and people want a mix up, and that's why we opened it up. You guys talked about it, you wanted to open up the policy, open up the applications, there's new applications. But I agree with Tina that they probably would not change from the principals.
Kathy, you said I would agree with him what?
I said I would agree with Tina that, the principals, that they had this, list, they would probably still keep the same.
Well, I agree with her too. And if we go by the the letter of our policy, then yeah, I would say that they wouldn't have to, there's two different lists. But I think for them to be able to make their decision, they have to see the full list.
Are you
But
saying we
you're right,
delay
the way
this?
that we wrote it, now that I'm thinking back about it, it doesn't say that they have to see the whole list. It doesn't say they have to see the whole list. It says that, sorry.
And some of it might be for future next year to decide if someone doesn't apply for a position, do you put them in that position? So
Yeah.
that's a clarification that I think the board needs to have.
And I agree, because I was under the impression, and it was confusing on the Google Docs, cause there was, it was like sometimes it was parent, and then I actually went to the application to see it, to try to, compare, so.
Anything further?
I have one real quick question, and it has to do with the, middle school community person, cause I don't see that name unless we're just not seeing it, and now I just saw it, yay, never mind.
Okay.
Beep, 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 back up.
Well, you got the final list, so it's important that you're able to see everything.
It was just at a different school.
Yes, I see.
You know, I do wanna say, since we're still discussing this, that, once again, I'm not objecting to any name on the list. I don't think that we're following the spirit of our policy that we had put forward. And I'm willing to call another meeting so that that each principal has their own list of correct names to make a recommendation, and we can have a meeting as soon as possible when they have time to look it over, with a day to see it, and then we can vote on it.
I think, David, though, the will of the board is quite evident in the room, so you're just asking principals to redo recommendations, and then if they're not followed, it's not, it's not, they don't have, it's not a good use of their time.
All right.
Yeah, because the board, the will of the group of the board, I hate to make them do that if it's not relevant at this point.
Well, anything further? Cassie? Chris? Sue? Okay. So I'm going to make the motion to adopt the list, that has been put together by Ms. Kimbrell and amended with input from, Ms. Cassens and the board. And I would move that we adopt that list for DAC and SAC.
I hate to ask one more question. I'm sorry, I just saw this. I was trying to cross-reference the two. If you have a business member, do you know that he has a business? Because he originally applied as a community member, Mr. Bates.
I believe he does have a business.
Okay. Because he applied as a non-parent community. Does anyone know him?
He has a business.
He has business here in town? Okay, thank you.
He has a business and he has another business, so.
Okay, I had him in a different call.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, the motion's there. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please, Kelly.
Austin,
No.
Illingworth,
Aye.
Kimbrell,
Aye.
Patterson.
Aye.
Rusterholz,
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries.
So may I ask the replacement policy for SAC and DAC? Cause I wanna make sure when we contact these people, if they deny, I wanna know what the next step is, cause we need to get our committees rolling. So
We
if
have-
a SAC member denies the position, it's the rest of the SAC that reappoints that,
Yes.
under any process they choose. And if a DAC member denies, what is the process for replacement?
The board appoints. We have a work session /
In 2
special
weeks?
meeting.
So it'll be a special meeting now? If
I
we
think
have
we were already
someone?
talking about making it,
Okay,
both. So if we, that's certainly a good opportunity to go ahead and appoint a replacement if necessary,
so at the end of October,
October 26th.
okay. I just wanted to make sure. And then, am I assuming that the communication is coming from the district or the people selected?
I would assume so.
Okay, and the communication for people that are removed, coming from the district, for people that were removed from the SAC?
Sure.
Okay.
Any reason, or do you want the principals to do it?
No, mm-mm.
Okay, so, Kelly, are you able to go through and read the names for, you wanna go like by school?
Yes. So for SAC Columbine teacher Jessica Ricks, parent Aaron Gleason, parent Ryan Reed, parent Brittany Lamb, administrator Ginger Slocum, community, you guys are gonna tell me the pronunciation, Patricia Belika, does anyone know how to pronounce her name?
She's told me it before, but I still don't know how to pronounce it.
Okay, it's spelled Bieleck for the record. Stakeholder organization, IEPTO, Amy Schoner. Do you want me to just go then?
Keep going down.
The DAC for Columbine, DAC parent Casey Guthrie. And business, Mick Bates. Oh no, that's the whole, that's where the school ends.
Okay,
For Gateway, teachers, Sam Bishu, parent Heather Schulz, parent Robert Cagno, say that again, please.
Calcagno.
Calcagno, thank you. Parent Amy Ryan, administrator Ashley Lawson, community Doreen Ward, stakeholder organization Kristen Montgomery, DAC parent Amy Ryan, DAC administrator Ashley Lawson. Summit Elementary, teacher Michelle Howell, parent Megan Shirley Wallstrom, is this?
Wallstrom.
They
Wallstrom.
must have cut off right
Yeah,
there.
it did.
Yeah.
Okay, Wallstrom. Parent Jennifer Yackel. Parent Nick Caper. Administrator Katie Rexford. Community Catherine Wheeler. Stakeholder organization Kim Eilers, PTO. DAC teacher is Michelle Howell. DAC parent is Jennifer Yackel. Woodland Park Middle School teacher Kip Schubert. Parent Zeph Bryant. Parent Jenny Peck. Parent Grace McCoy. Administrator, it has both Yvonne Goings and Bill.
It's Yvonne.
Yvonne's gonna do it, okay, thank you. Community, Viva Herman. Stakeholder organization, Shelley Greenfield. Student, Finn Bryant. DAC teacher, Kip Schubert. DAC parent, Zeph Bryant. DAC administrator, is that gonna be Yvonne then?
No, Bill Hyland.
Bill is gonna do the DAC, okay, thank you, Bill Palin. Woodland Park High School teacher, Blaine Miller, parent Aaron Hellstrom, parent Jim Vandermeer, parent Brian Tisdale, administrator Kevin Burr, community Kitten Walker, stakeholder organization PTO Amy Wolin, student Allie Orlano. DAC teacher Tom Torrance, DAC parent Aaron Hellstrom, student Allie Orlano. Then for the business of DAC is Mick Bates, resident is Jamie Dion. For co-interim superintendent would be Tina Cassins, obviously, I'm assuming Mr. Garrett, you'll step in if she's not available, so. Yep. Are you doing a backup on that? Okay. Merit parent Mike DeMuth, Merit community Sean Peckron.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. So
You're
the
welcome.
only thing remaining is the appointment of 2 members of this board to serve on the DAC. Last year was, for